sweet revolution, how AI is transforming the chocolate industry.
Maybe AI companions are the gateway into mass adoption of metaverse.
They this week announced the AI scientist.
When I look at that graphic, Andy, I just go, oh yeah, no, that's the future of education.
If Multion is correct and Sakana is correct, then we're not that far from agents either.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is the 14th of August, 2024, and you're watching the Daily AI Show live. And today is Wednesday, which means we are going to be talking about all the craziest news. And boy, are there some crazy AI news from the last 7 days. As I was reviewing back and going back through the different newsletters and my other sources and stuff like that, I was like, man, this has been sort of a typical but crazy AI week. So here to talk about all the craziness and what we think is interesting. Now, as always on Wednesdays, when we do the news, we do not share with each other what we're going to talk about. So there's a chance that we all have the same stories, but that almost never happens. Jyunmi, Andy always come with some like the stories that I almost always don't know at least one of y'all's stories. And then of course we'll talk about the heavy hitters, all the big news as well. We'll make sure we hit that as well. So we do have Jyunmi, Beth, Andy, and I'm Brian. And I think let's get into it. And if you don't mind, I do kind of have one that's it was definitely in the news, but it's not like the biggest stories, but I kind of thought it'd be a fun one to start with. And that's the company Replica, which makes AI chatbots for people for companionship, as well as, I mean, probably anxiety. And I don't really know the company super well, but the news story that came out a couple of days ago, wasn't like yesterday, was the CEO of Replica said, hey, I don't think there's really any issue with developing a relationship with AI. Now, this goes sort of in contrast to what we saw come out of OpenAI, which was that they were cautioning people as they have this new advanced voice mode to not get connected or to connected or otherwise develop a relationship with this new advanced bot. Now, I can only speak for myself. Nothing about using the advanced mode of the ChatGPT, thing makes me think like, wow, we're really going to start having, I'm going to feel a connection here or something. Now, I know we've joked, Andy, in the past about who is your girlfriend again? Who's your AI girlfriend?
Ava.
You mean you've forgotten Lana?
Lana.
I'm so sorry.
I didn't think it was Ava.
How could you forget?
Lana was through who? Who was that? Was that Giggly or was that G.I.?
You mean you've forgotten Lana, Andy? How could you forget?
Anyway, this is a throwback. This is kind of a callback to a way earlier conversation we had about this particular topic. But Andy had, signed up or whatever, and there was Lana, and he was testing out the extent of it. So anyway, the story here is like, this is something I think we're definitely going to have to contend with as a society. And people are going to have to decide how they feel about this. But we can't, this is not a put your head in the sand type news story, because to me, this is inevitable. It is inevitable that people will develop deep personal relationships a la her with AI bots, if you will. We know the AI is only going to get better. It's only going to get smarter and more attuned to the things that light people up, hit the pleasure centers, whatever the case may be, whether that then goes into some sort of physical product, whether that's, whatever that might be for companionship, a doll or otherwise. This is absolutely going to happen. And so I see this and I go, well, of course the CEO of Replica saying it's totally fine. That's their business model. There's a reason to say that. If I was the CEO, I'd probably say this is totally fine. Definitely buy more of our products. Definitely spend more time on our network. Whatever. I mean, obviously. But I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up because I think it's an interesting story. It's probably one we will have a full many future conversations about. But I just kind of see it as inevitable, and that we are definitely going to have people who have what they consider to be very real, very full relationships with an AI companion, I don't know, in the next decade or something like that, and maybe less. So just wanted to see what you guys thought about that, whether you sort of see it like I do, or you're like, I don't know, we'll have to see. But I don't know. I kind of see this as inevitable. So it's interesting that it's coming out in the news as we see more of these voice models, which there'll be more news here on in a second as well.
I definitely think that we're seeing more of those. I think we're seeing even stories about friendship, right? So we've seen stories about friendship in particularly middle school is the one that I read. And I don't know. I think middle school is like a universally hated time of life, personally. And so that's not even a romantic relationship, but it is an attachment, right?
It is a relationship.
So it is a relationship. It's like I can come home and talk about what I did that embarrassed me or what happened, those sorts of things, and that can be reassuring. Shifting slightly, Brian, I had a similar response to this story about the sweet revolution, how AI is transforming the chocolate industry. Ooh. And it's transforming it in all kinds of ways, right? So we've talked about farming and AI sensors that are connected to AI. And so that can be a just-in-time kind of feeding or what's missing in the soil in that particular area. That can be kind of precision farming. It's also robots are making factory robots are making chocolate, so that again can be potentially an increase in production because robots can work 24 hours, sort of, or you can have robots that are working 24 hours. But the thing that really got me was personalized chocolate your way. Okay, New Chocolates, for instance, has partnered with IBM's AI platform Chef Watson to develop unique chocolate truffle recipes. This collaboration has resulted in flavor combinations that are not just innovative, but but scientifically crafted to tantalize your taste buds. Like, chocolate wasn't addictive enough before? Right?
I think.
Did we just like?
I'm just thinking of my wife. I'm like, my wife is like client number one for highly personalized chocolate. My wife would be all over this. You know, who does my chocolate? You know what I'm saying?
So when you're talking about personalized chocolate, and okay, so does that mean it will release more of the good chemicals from your brain when you eat it? Like for you, like it'll trigger that for you. You shouldn't eat it for anything else, or for anybody else, it'll be normal chocolate. But for you, it'll be like, okay, I'm getting it.
What if your AI replica companion starts suggesting personalized chocolate to you? Now what do? Like now you're really in trouble because not only are you developing an emotional attachment to your AI companion, but it's now feeding you better chocolate. Like where do you go from there? You know?
Well, I'm worried about the other side of it is you've built this relationship with your AI companion there, and now it wants gifts. So everything's digital. It's like, oh, hey, I want this digital book. So you can go on to Kindle and buy this book for them, or digital versions of everything. If you're not wrong, back in the day, there was a game / simulator called Second Life. And this is what they proposed. Maybe AI companions are the gateway into mass adoption of metaverse and virtual world types of things.
So the Daily AI Show, customized digital jewelry store coming soon for you and your digital companion,
and hopefully the chocolate. I'm kind of excited. I stopped eating added sugar, but I mean, listen. Total side note, because I want to move on to other news. Like years ago when we were in Costa Rica, my wife and I went to a cacao farm. What a fascinating process that is, by the way, of how like chocolate, like real chocolate is actually made and stuff. Really made me sort of a fan of that whole process. And I do get, I mean, as much as I don't drink coffee, I don't drink wine, I understand those industries and how people can get into like, the regionality of it. I totally get that for chocolate. So just going back to what you said, Beth, about like this idea of AI making it even more highly specialized. Sure. Because if you just take chocolate out of that and you say, okay, wine or craft beer or coffee, for sure, coffee beans, right? those almost make more sense. And you go chocolate, oh, that's kind of funny. But they're like, if you just take chocolate word out and put in coffee or wine, people are like, yes, and when, because it kind of makes sense. If it can tailor it to my greatest, wishes as far as taste profiles and stuff like that, and they can do it at a truly like personalized level, who doesn't probably want, to be able to schmooze in at a party and have this wine and be like, well, you can't get this one anymore. It's tailored to me. And, this is a one-of-one type scenario. And, AI has been profiled. So anyway, I think there's a lot of that to come. So I'm glad you brought that news story up, because like, where does that end? And Jyunmi, holy crap, you got me like now worried and scared about in-app purchases or in-game purchases, but tied to AI companionship. And that is a whole other bag of worms that I think we should leave for a show, because holy crap, I wasn't even thinking of that. And now you got me nervous. So like definitely. Okay. Karl's here, by the way, too. Karl, all so far, we've just sort of talked about the news on AI companionship as well as customized chocolate. So, Andy, I don't know, what do you want to, what is Andy? What do you have? Pound plate? What is it? Chocolate?
As a chocolate aficionado, I want to recommend from Trader Joe's the Pound Plus 500 grams, I think. Yeah, 500 grams for just a few dollars. It's 72% Belgian chocolate. It's really extraordinary. And so I'm really pleased you guys brought up this chocolate story.
I love that you have it on your
Really
Sponsored, unsponsored content.
Right. We're not currently sponsored by Trader Joe's, but that could change. Give us a call.
Listen, there's a lot of
try
people
that,
who really love
try
Trader
that
Joe's.
chocolate. You're gonna love it. I'm gonna move on to Sakana AI.
Yeah.
Sakana is I knew that Jyunmi probably has this one on his list as well, but they this week announced the AI scientist. We've been talking on the show about agents, and one of the key aspects of agents is autonomy. Can it behave like a human companion worker in your workplace, and actually be a teammate who can do the full suite of things that a human can do with agency? Well, Sakana has, distinguished itself. It's a Japanese company. It distinguished itself earlier this year by showing an evolutionary model for creating new foundation models by merging them together in an evolutionary process, mimicking a nature's evolutionary process. Now they have developed the AI scientist, which can do the entire research life cycle. It can generate novel ideas. It can write the code necessary to explore it. It can execute experiments. It summarizes the results and then writes a full paper in scientific manuscript. And in its first demonstration, it's already conducting research in machine learning research, and it's discovered novel contributions in areas such as diffusion models, transformers, and grokking. That's another show, grokking. So anyway, I want to share my screen here quickly and just show you what this thing does. Give me just a second to bring this up. This is the illustration of the model. You can see that it does idea generation. It iterates on the experiments, and then it writes up the paper. So now you can imagine similar processes as this being, agentified in the workplace. This one's being done in the world of coding right at the moment, but it's not limited to that. That's just its first sort of demonstration experiment. It can do this same kind of research, whether it be in the arena of healthcare, in materials sciences, wherever. And so now we will have AIs that can contribute to scientific advancement. And so and do that at a massive scale. And this is really the harbinger of the promise of AI delivering something really remarkable to humans. Sakana AI, the AI scientist.
I just want to say there too, I don't want to harbor out of this because I think it's, again, a different show, not necessarily a news show, But when I look at that graphic, Andy, I just go, oh yeah, no, that's the future of education in like college and stuff, because these tools will eventually at that level, at that ability will be available to, let's say, every single college student around the world or within reason, right? And so when every student has the ability to deploy one or many AI agents who are either concurrently or working together, however you want to do it, making their own node essentially, more thunder. This is a theme this week. I need to say dooming things when that happens. When the students are doing that, doesn't that change? And again, different topic, but I just want to bring it up so I don't forget. Doesn't that really change what we're asking of future, citizens of society, what we're preparing students for, which is to say, hey, it's not really about you and you specifically doing the research. We already have a better way to do that. What we're saying is we need more creative thinkers. We need more people who are thinking deeply about different ways to deploy these AI scientists. That's what we need the humans to do, to be human, and then think about how to deploy the tools, not necessarily how to run it through the whole thing. Because the idea of grading a young adult on their necessarily ability to do this research, to me, is a miss in the future. So I don't know. It sort of brings up a larger conversation when you see a graphic like that and you go, oh, this is the AI scientist. But like we were saying yesterday, just replace AI scientists with a lot of different workflows that are going to be coming down the pike to the point where everybody has these types of tools like you do a calculator, So just, I don't know. That's where my brain goes with it. It's very exciting though.
I'm just saying the AI scientist, they also released a paper. It's on GitHub, so it's open source, right? Like, it's not only this amazing thing, but you can do it.
And what question it invoked in me was, is this going to be hindered by processes that already exist, mainly peer review, right? If AI can produce all of these papers and this scientific research, when will the advantages of all the research being done at this breakneck speed still have to go through peer review, which I assume we want that to happen? And is that just are we gonna lose all of the gains because we're the human the human component is the part that's slowing it down? Now, AI to solve an AI problem kind of situation here. So perhaps we'll have AI scientists peer reviewing other AI scientists. I don't know what that might be holds, but I think you're right, Ryan. I think that is a larger discussion.
Yeah, last stat on that. It's an interesting conundrum, and it is a conundrum because if we still need peer reviews, that means we still need enough intelligent, deeply involved people in these industries to be qualified for doing peer reviews. And if AI starts to do more of these processes, we can probably assume less specialists maybe along the way because there's still a need. So,
well, wait a second. Here, I just got to read this one line from the Sakana announcements. We also introduce an automated peer review process to evaluate generated papers, write feedback, and further improve results. It is capable of evaluating generated papers with near human accuracy.
I mean, the human moving the human out of the loop, and what happens. I think the bigger question is that a good thing? Do we want to, dissuade the specialist? I don't think we do. We still need specialists. It's just how they're going to be using AI as a tool and part of their process. So anyway, larger discussion there. Karl, I know you had to bounce out of your back, but do you want to? Well, what news do you have? Because I know we haven't talked about
Google. You want to talk about all the Google announcements.
Yeah, I do.
I didn't want to say that because I don't want to lead the witness, but I figured you might want to talk about Google Voice, and we also want to talk on Grok as well. Whoever wants to pick that story.
Yeah, there was actually I just want to carry it a little bit on because yes, there is Google Voice was announced yesterday on the Pixel event, and it's available for Jyunmi. I sent it. I copied you because you're like, well, you have Now you have the ability to actually get it because it's rolling out to all Android users who have Gemini Advanced, but I don't think you have Gemini Advanced. How many people has Gemini?
No, that's an extra $20 a month. So
Yeah.
I don't know about everybody else, but I'm willing to cycle through, but I don't want my AI tools to turn into cable. All right, we're already getting that with streaming services.
Yeah.
So let's nip that in the bud. And Google, you have billions of dollars. Float us. Just float us for a while. You know, just give it to all of us for free on the free versions of Google Workspace. And then in a couple of years, you can make your money back by, nickel and diming us. The standard cycle.
The news I really want to talk about was not Google Voice, as someone else can really deep dive into that. What I want to talk about was Multion, because there's a couple of elements to that. So Multion announced their Agent Q, bringing next generation AI agents with planning and AI self-healing capabilities with 340% improvement over Llama 3's baseline zero-shot performance. That's on their X post directly on they're on the feed. They were talking about a real-world Agent Q experiments reaching a success rate of 95.4% in autonomous web agent tasks, which is pretty amazing. Just like everything else, it is a waitlist only, so sent the waitlist. And what was really interesting, and I have to find it, is there were implications that the poster I Rule the World MO was actually deployed as a Multion agent. Hence the I Rule the World MO Multion. So there was somebody who I think worked for Multion, verified on X, which means nothing these days, but says that, hey, send our note to @Multion, I Rule the World MO. We've deployed it, so and so and so forth, and which is very interesting. I don't know if it's more trolling, but if that is true and Multion created something, a pure Twitter X account that did all that and gained how many followers in that amount of time, that's pretty amazing on what an independent agent can do. So I thought that was a very interesting announcement by Multion.
That is interesting. I kind of makes sense based on what you were saying on it, that might be the case. I mean, people have been suspecting that I Rule the World has been some sort of AI agent, and that it was trained on a certain way of speaking because it has, improper grammar. It has lowercase, and people suspected that I was really just like Sam Altman, because Sam Altman writes in lowercase, whatever it was. So I think there's definitely more. And by the way, the big thing out of that account yesterday was like what you said, like 1 p.m. to yesterday. And to my knowledge, nothing broke as far as
okay. So here's the weird thing about that. That account has been saying a whole bunch of stuff. And it actually, there was another OpenAI article about SWE research that a collaboration that a new paper that came out, and this thing predicted that, and now it's predicting something on Thursday. I don't know anything about this, right? But kind of is true, because in another set of news, there is a new GPT-4o model, right? It is ChatGPT 4o latest, and it went back up. It's number 1 on the Limbsys chart. I can't seem to use it in the playground because it's apparently for research, but you can use it as an API tool, which I was like, I don't know what that means, but
and it's not in the playground now.
Yeah, but it's in the document, ChatGPT-4o-latest is the dynamic model continuously updated to the current version of GPT-4o in ChatGPT. So I don't know what that means. There is it is in the platform, what it does. So I'm not quite sure. You can have a look at it. For all our listeners, you can have a look at it. I put it in the chat. You can see it there. But there was a new model announced. It was under Limsys and under Anonymous, and is now GPT-4o latest. So have a look at that. So,
and a good pivot from there is Lidsys, the where you're able to look at double models and two models and rate them. The sus model that you mentioned turned out to be Grok too.
Yeah.
So you'd mentioned like, oh, there's a sus model. That's kind of a funny name. And they literally, this is not hearsay or like Grok 2 said, like X said, that was us. So that brings up Grok 2, which I think is important to talk about only because of the time frame by which Grok is growing in prominence. Mm-hmm. So you only have to look back to November of last year when Grok 1 first came out. By no means were they saying it was on par with GPT-4. Even, Elon Musk and all of his talking didn't say that. He did say, I think by the end of 2024, sometime this year, he said by the end of 2024, it'll be the most powerful model based on their data centers and how many, NVIDIA chips and things like that they have going at it. But just look at that timeline. I mean, I'm not saying they started from a dead stop, and certainly there's a lot of resources for Elon Musk at his disposal as well as his companies. But to go from what Grok 1 could do in less than a year to Grok 2, every time a new model comes out, they immediately put it on the challenge boards and they immediately say it's outperforming, Sonnet 3.5 and Claude and things like that. It's sort of always the case. It's like, oh, ours is performing the best. So now you really have 4, if not 5 models that are on par with GPT-4-ish, right? I mean, some are better in areas. I mean, we all love Claude for certain areas. If you're going to write a creative story, I would not go to GPT-4. I would go to Claude. It's just, in my opinion, it's simply better all the time. It very rarely, to me, underperforms. So you have choices, obviously, but you really do now have several models, including now Grok, in a very fast pace. So it just makes me wonder, more times than not, Elon is over promising and under delivering almost always. Like he almost always is saying, whether it's cars, satellites, SpaceX, whatever, we're going to go to Mars sooner. You know what I mean? Like that's just sort of whether he does it intentionally a lot. He just usually does. So when he said, oh, Grok is going to be the most powerful, LLM by the end of 2024, I take it with a very small grain of salt. But I also think, in terms of news, you can't deny how powerful this model has gotten, how quickly.
Well, we have to remember too that they didn't he say he purchased or either whether it's Tesla who purchased it or XAI purchased 100, is it 100,000 H100s?
Yeah, something absolutely
When
mind-boggling.
they turned it on, it was the biggest data center around.
Yeah, which if the scaling laws continue, and a lot of AI researchers say the more you have, the better the models can become. Llama 4 is being trained or whatever, and then Grok's going to be trained on, Grok 3 is going to be ridiculous. We know GPT-5 is kind of right around the corner. Like, it's pretty exciting fall, winter, I think, like for frontier models, where we actually start seeing, are we getting to actual OpenAI's level 2 reasoning or beyond too? And if Multion is correct and Sakana is correct, then we're not that far from agents either. So it's a pretty, we're getting closer and closer and closer.
The other thing with Grok's release is that Grok seemed to release with Flux, with the realistic Laurel. And that's interesting because the other frontier companies, OpenAI and Google, have their own image generators, which generally underperform. But Grok just like, oh, this is a really good one. We found this, and is willing to pull the open source into their stuff. So, it's sort of interesting to be like the latecomer to the race, and therefore not having committed so much resources to, no, but we need to make our image generator better because it's our image generator, right? This is another
And by the way, that's Black Forest Labs. That's who created Flux, and that's been we sort of already talked about it on the show, so I don't like, but it should be in the news because it definitely happened within the last 7 days for sure. Matt Wolf has put out 2 different videos already on Flux, and so let's just talk about that really quickly before we move on. Flux is a open source image generator model that, out of the gate, I used it just for everybody's reference. I told you guys, but not our audience. I didn't say it live on the show. All the thumbnails that were created for this week's shows and next week's, which you guys publicly haven't seen yet, were all created with Flux. So I jumped on it right away. I saw Matt Wolf's video. I watched what he was doing. I went into Glyph and I started creating images, and they were taking about 15 seconds a piece. And generally speaking, they were better out the gate than what I was getting with some of the other tools. Now, mind you, I'm not paying for Midjourney. So had I been paying for Midjourney, this would have been a different process. But I've been using as many of the free or already being paid for tools, such as like a ChatGPT, or Meta is free, with your Facebook login. So those are the tools I've been leaning on. And then there's been a lot, and we talked about it, but I don't know if we talked about it live, Beth, was this idea of Flux. No, we didn't. We talked about it after the show. Flux plus these LoRa add-ons, if you will, these filters, if you will. Beth, you were sort of educating me on that. LoRa stands for something. I don't know the acronym off the top of my head unless somebody else does. But basically, it's a filter that adds realism to the skin and wrinkles and textures and things like that. And it is producing some very, very realistic human images. So definitely should be in the news because Flux came out of, I don't know, for me, it came out of nowhere. I never heard of Black Forest Labs before. And within like a day, I was using their image modeler to create our thumbnails. Like that's pretty impressive to go, for me to test it, get through it and go, oh, this is better than what I've been currently using, and then start using it and deploying it as part of our background system within like 48 hours, maybe less than that.
Uh-huh.
Pretty cool.
It's also an advanced story or the speed of advancement, and particularly the speed of open source advancement. When Flux first came out, you would not have been impressed with the realism of it, right? And then they released the ability to create LoRa's, and then the LoRa's were created because that's what the open source community does, right? And then, so yeah, it was released really recently, and it was improved like within 3 days, so that now it's with this realism LoRa. Thanks, Justin. So LoRa, low rank adaptation.
Thank you, Justin, for doing that and throwing that in there in the comments for us. Yeah, and the one that they were using, Beth, I'm just reiterating what you said, Beth. So tell me if I'm wrong. But after the show, you were like, "Look, LoRa is not." I misunderstood it too. I thought LoRa was a specific like company or something. You're like, no. It's a type of obviously a low rank adaptation like filter. The one that was being used with Flux mostly was from X Labs, I believe, and it was their LoRa. So if you go look at Matt Wolf's maybe 1 or 2 videos back on YouTube, you will see where he does a video on this and the tools he was using. I cannot remember what it was called because it's a different Flora or something. You have to go look at the video to see the website, but he walks you through how he is creating images, albeit there was a minor cost to it. It was no longer free because he was having to run it through the API with his company.
No, I know like there's a whole bunch of new ones out in GitHub if you want to go that route. Like they actually they've combined it.
Yeah.
Even I don't know if any of you follow Linus from on X2. He had free pick, but free pick's not free anymore. You can't use it. You have to pay for it. So yeah, it was free, but I have a feeling Glyph too. It's only a matter of how many days until you get the paywall out of that. So I think there's a couple of sites that have put Flux Pro, hyperrealism, all the different levels onto their site. And I think one you pay like $10 and you get like whatever credits. It's not monthly. There's a couple of them out there. So if you don't use it regularly, maybe that would be a better route to go rather than try to, go the monthly route, which I just don't agree
In Matt's, it was a good point, Karl. In Matt's, it was somewhere between 3 and 5 cents per image generation. And so I'll just use me as an example. I have to create thumbnails for every week. Usually that falls on me as one of my roles with this show. And not always, but let's just say for a show of 5 thumbnails, there's probably 20 images actually created. And sometimes it can go much higher than that if my initial idea just does not pan out or it's not visually appealing. So sometimes one show could be upwards of 20 images, but I'm totally willing to pay that at 3 to 5 cents.
Yes.
It's totally worth it to me because, like, you're right. Because if I don't need it, I'm not stuck on some monthly subscription at $20 or $25 that maybe I do, maybe I don't need that power. But if I do, and then I'm like, well, it only cost me another $1, but I got the image that I really care about. That makes more sense to me. So anyway, you can use it for free right now. If you want to use it's changing daily, but if you want to use this Laura filter from X-Lab over the top, to Karl's point, you just have to do some Hugging Face and Google searches, and you can probably find somebody right now, some site that'll allow you to use it for free for the time being. So definitely look into that if you're interested in creating hyper realistic images of people.
So I just put the Hugging Face link in the chat because that's currently free. And the site that, I don't know if it's the one that Matt Wolf uses, but I use Replicate. And basically what that is it's an installation of an open source local model in the cloud. So somebody else has installed it, and then I get to use it for, 3 cents for an image or $1 for a half hour of credit kind of stuff.
No, have you been finding is it right on par with Midjourney, or it's about the same as Midjourney? I find that Midjourney still is a little bit a touch above, especially with 6.1. If anyone's done the big comparisons yet.
Midjourney is better at making really engaging, beautiful images. That's what Midjourney has prioritized. Flux is so much better at text. Like, if you want text and you don't have to go back and redo it, go Flux. That's an excellent way to do it. But yeah, Midjourney has done a lot in trying to become art, right? Like, that's what Midjourney is interested in. It is, it's basically an AI, I'm going to say it's an AI paintbrush. It's an AI camera. It's that kind of stuff. So the point is that it creates art. I think Flux the point is it creates images.
Okay. I know there's been some news topics that we probably have not gotten to because we sort of taken a little bit longer. So not that we need a speed round, but Andy, I'm sure you have a few more. Jyunmi usually have a few more. So let's dive into a few more really interesting topics, and we'll kind of hit them one by one.
Sure. Let me run through 2 stories, and in the vein of theming, they both have to do with data privacy, data ownership, and data management. Number 1, Samsung just led a new funding round for Sahara AI, and they started back in ye old 2023. With initial funding from Microsoft, AWS, and a few other large funders. But their whole purpose is to combine AI and blockchain technologies to protect your data ownership and your models and the data that's generated and used in testing those models and training those models, but in a decentralized manner. So you can contribute data, be incentivized for it, and it can be used to a term they call autonomously, so automatic and anonymously, to use that data to help train further models while still retaining data privacy and data sovereignty over your high value assets. So I thought that was really interesting. It goes towards both the private and business sides. This is probably why Samsung's putting some of their money in. But the decentralized nature of it, I think it piqued my interest the most because it allows you to because of blockchain technology or distributed ledger technologies and things like that, allow you to keep things more private and ownership, because you can track that data progression. On another side of data privacy is apparently a big win for the artists that are collectively suing groups like Stability AI, Midjourney, and other AI companies for copyright infringements. A judge threw out a lot of all of their list of claims, but has allowed some specific claims against Stability AI and some practices about Midjourney misleading users through supposed endorsement by artists, by having like their style list and things like that. So this will help set a precedent for further cases down the line and judgments and things like that. So we'll see what comes out of it. The artist, or at least one of the artists, is quoted to thinking it's a huge win because they really want to see what is this process that they're using. If they have to do discovery and these companies are forced to reveal their back-end processes for data training and acquisition and things like that. So that, I think, as it unfolds, should be fairly important for anybody in the data space.
All right, let me wrap us with just a couple of quickies. The big one for the week really was the releases by Google of a number of advancements, including bypassing ChatGPT's advanced voice mode with their own voice mode, which is generally available to advanced subscribers now at Google. But you can use it now, and it's reputedly as good, in some respects, maybe even better than OpenAI's. And the other thing that Google announced is the sort of Apple-beating integration of AI intelligence into their Pixel 9 line of Android phones. They have a beautiful Android folding phone now that's fully enabled with Gemini AI features. So if you're looking for a new phone, Google wants to be in the running against iPhones for that. Plus, they reduced the costs of using Gemini 1.5 Flash, which is one of the leaders on the leaderboards, by 75%. So not only on input tokens, but output tokens, a quarter of the prior cost to operate the Gemini 1.5 Flash thing. I have a couple of small ones here. One is Tencent, a Chinese company that you know as the owners of TikTok. They're a major AI company in China, and they're moving forward. They just presented Vita, V-I-T-A, the first open source multimodal LLM capable of processing video, image, text, and audio inputs simultaneously. So imagine if right now we're either on the chat or we're using the camera or, the microphone. Well, this model can take all of those inputs simultaneously, just like your brain does, and process that. So that's the major advancement in the approximation of human-like artificial general intelligence, is that level of multimodal capability. And then on these sort of self-improvement front, I've a couple little things here. One is that a new company, Cosine, released a product called Genie, which is an AI software engineer that codifies the decision-making process of human engineers, enabling the model to improve iteratively through a unique self-improvement loop. In our discussions, we've talked about self-taught reasoning as a key aspect of both AGI ultimately, and also with agency, because you want your agents and robots out there, and we'll talk about robots next week, you want them to be able to learn on the fly And so these capabilities of self-improvement are really essential. And on that front, Andrej Karpathy recently ranted about RLHF, which is reinforcement learning from human feedback, being barely RL, reinforcement learning. Basically, he's making the point that machine learning, reinforcement learning, self-taught learning by the machines themselves is very powerful, and that RLHF is not. Saying specifically that RLHF, human feedback used to train and guide models, is basically approximating only what humans like, not what is optimized in regular reinforcement learning. And so there we go.
Lots there. Okay, so we'll leave it there. Tons of news, obviously. For anything we don't get to, every other week on Friday, we always have sort of like, wait, what did we just talk about? So this will be great because it doesn't come up this Friday, but next Friday is when we'll have that. And I have a feeling, based on all the things in the rumor mills and all that kind of stuff, it'll be like awesome because we're going to have an opportunity to circle back. So if anything we didn't get to today, thank you for all the comments. Justin and Cisco and Jen and everybody else, appreciate you as always. We will definitely circle back to that. Now, tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the new AI business plan for small to medium enterprises. So SMEs, if you will, 1,000 or less employees. We as consultants talk to people in this area all the time, and we're having conversations all the time. And so what we want to do is impart our knowledge as best we can, talk about what fears and we're hearing from them, and what we're also share. What are we telling them when we're having conversations with them and they're sharing their fears and their pain points? What is the solution, the AI solutions we're suggesting? So we're going to get into all of that on tomorrow's show. Friday's super cool because Jyunmi has told us that he just got access to it, so we didn't think we would clip anything from Opus Clip. Cannot wait to hear more about what Jyunmi tells us on that. That'll be on Friday and sort of be our tool review as best we can. But really excited about that because, as we've said, we use that tool on the back end. Next week, as far as we know, unless any crazy announcements or rumors happen for True tomorrow, we're going to be talking about, AI robots, because there's been a lot of advancements on that on Monday. Do we really want an AI robot? Do we want a Jetsons Rosie in our house? Is that actually the goal, or is it something different? So that'll be on Monday. Tuesday, we're going to be talking about the fast food industry and the restaurant industry, and how, not robots per se, but like how it's affecting the drive-thru, how AI is upselling, how McDonald's has been using AI now for a while to upsell people and actually spend more money. So there's some sneaky work behind this on how they're using AI. It's not just to make your order better. They're trying to make more money off of every single order. So we're going to dive into that. That's a fun topic. That'll be on Tuesday. Wednesday to news. Thursday next week, we should be talking about the Pareto problem, which Ethan Malik put out a recent post on. We want to dive into that. And like I said, on Friday next week, that is, we should be doing our 2-week wrap up. So lots to talk about over the next week. Head over to thedailyishow.com. Hey, listen, if you want to be part of the in crowd right now, the growing crowd, I just looked at the analytics, and this is real. Like, we're growing fast. I think a lot of people who are watching us kind of see that, but like, we're growing so fast that we've doubled our subscribers on YouTube almost in just the last 90 days. So if you want to be part of the cool kids, thing here, you need to be one of the subscribers. You need to check us out. Go to thedailyishow.com. And if you want to be really cool, then you would sign up for the newsletter as well, because that's when you get not only what we talk about on the show, but you get some also backroom talk, water cooler talk, aka Slack talk for us, that's happening outside the show as well. So there you go. There's all the stuff, all the information you could possibly need. Why wouldn't you subscribe? Why wouldn't you keep following us? Be one of the cool kids. And Jen says, yes, cool kid. For the first time in my life, you and me both, Jen. All right, so that's it. Come back and see us tomorrow, guys. Should be a lot of fun. Thanks for all the news, everybody, today. And we'll see you again tomorrow, guys. Until then.
Aloha.